This is quarterback. I have a situation. Somebody tried to kill me.
Jack, is work okay?
Yeah?
You know, you sold this as an office job.
Why don't you sit down? Now talk me through your very scary scenario. Keep in mind, I don't have your PhD.
Tokyo, London, the United States. It's gonna be a wipeout. We'll never see it coming.
You're not just an analyst anymore. You're operational now.
Dad?
I have to go to Moscow.
Why don't you want me to come?
Because I'm gonna be working the whole time.
They play rough over there, Jack. Victor Cherevin is unpredictable.
You Americans like to think of yourselves as direct. Perhaps you are just rude.
Perhaps you're just touchy.
What are some characteristics you felt had to be brought into this that was essentially Jack Ryan?
Essentially, Jack Ryan to me is humility and selflessness. We tried to paint that picture in our film in the first 5 minutes, where you see a man who's on the track to kind of the private sector to make a lot of money and veers right off that path once he sees the planes hit the towers, and he decides to go to serve something bigger and greater than himself. And he's a man that is essentially kind of a wallflower who I don't think is really comfortable at the forefront fighting. He just is compelled to do it, and that's where the conflict is within him, I think.
He's galvanized by 9/11. What's a moment where you feel like you were galvanized?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say probably getting this film. You know, there's a lot of pressure one can feel taking on something like this with all the history behind it. But you can also use it as a positive and say, you know what, this is a great challenge. This is a moment to really step up. You're going to be working with Kevin Costner and Keira Knightley and Kenneth Branagh. You better bring it.
What did you want for Jack Ryan, and how do you hope it's viewed?
You never know how it's going to be viewed. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold was one of the pictures that I watched. We did look at Ip Cresford as well. We looked at 3 Days of the Condor, looked at The Parallax View, looked at All the President's Men as a sort of, kind of conspiracy thriller as well. And all the classics. We basically went to all those great kinds of movies that involved tightly driven, character-led plots. We wanted a character-led action thriller. And that started with the casting, really, with Chris Pine, who was attached when I came on board and who I thought was brilliant casting for Jack Ryan. We wanted to make an entertaining film, but we wanted people to go on the kind of thoughtful journey that Jack goes on, because he's a thinking man as well as, it turns out, an action man. But primarily, he's a kind of everyman, and we recognize and empathize with him in a way that you don't with other kinds of heroes in these movies. So. We had a lot of action, but we also had a lot of moments with people sitting talking to each other. And I wanted to make a movie where 2 guys sit on a bench in a park at midnight in Moscow.
You're not involving her in this.
You involved me in this by not telling me.
You gotta get her out of here. Send her home.
Well, what are you going to tell Sheriffin, that I'm home?
These are dangerous people, Kathy. You cannot be here.
If you told me who you really were,
I took an oath. I took an oath. I couldn't tell you unless we were married, and you wouldn't marry me.
That's why you wanted to marry me? So that you could tell somebody you were in the
of course not.
You lied to me for 3 years, and you were good at it. I think you actually enjoyed it.
Can we have a minute, please?
No, you can't.
I would like to talk to Jack
This is
alone,
geopolitics. It's not couples therapy.
You had your repartee with Keira Knightley. Can you talk about how you guys plotted that out and talked about putting that together?
It was very hard, and that was, in these action films, you only have a very small amount of time to do the character work that you want to do before stuff starts exploding. So it's a very scalpel-like surgery you have to make on these relationships. And what do you reveal? What do you divulge? What do you hold back? You want to root for this couple, though.
First movie you saw in a movie theater, non-animated. First one where you went, oh my God.
Oh, E.T., for sure. Man Chinese.
Who took it?
My mom. I was 4.
It's probably the Sound of Music, actually. Around 1966, I guess that would be, in Belfast, for sure. Around that time, I remember seeing Sound of Music, The Great Escape, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Help by the Beatles. I remember seeing that. And I love them. We went to the Capitol Cinema in Belfast. We walked through the park, and that's where we got there. And we went as a family. It was great. I loved it.
What are your impressions of IMDb?
I mean, it's IMDb. It's a business staple. Come on now.
I love people's lists. I love because every time I go by, it gets more and more obscure. You know, with lists so rarefied about scenes where mirrors have been used 3 times, or featuring European character actors. My favorite 10. You think there can't be 10 films with mirror shots featuring Middle European character actors, but there are, and they're in IMDb.